Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Is why you're here with Dr. Greer, and you're listening to the Dr. On Call Show at HealthyLife.net. Well, it is the last week of the month, which means it's hot, it's happening, it's sizzling, and it is Let's Talk Sex Time. Welcome to the show. And later in the hour, we're going to have a new installment of Self-Help, my collaboration with Self Magazine. We're going to talk with Zara Barnes about her new piece, Lean Into Your Sex Life. So stay tuned for that later on in the show. But I'm delighted to welcome my first guest, August McLaughlin. August is a health and sexuality writer in Los Angeles. Her new radio show, Girl Boner Radio, currently holds the top slot on iTunes' new and noteworthy list. And her articles have been featured by the Livestrong.com, Dame Magazine, The Nest Woman, and more. Her first novel, In Her Shadow, was a 2013 Indies for Excellence finalist, and it's based on her experience with an eating disorder while working as an international model. In her outspoken advocacy for healthy sexuality, August coined the term girl boner, and in addition to her radio show, she writes every Monday about how to celebrate and embrace your sensual side on her blog at augustmclaughlin.com. We were lucky to meet at the Women's Sexual Health Day event in New York, and she's been on the show before because she's such a terrific guest. So, August, thank you for coming back and joining us once more with Feeling.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I love your show, and it's fun for me to chat with you.
And I really appreciate your being here because I know you were having some bells going off and sometimes life throws us personal upheaval, and that's what happens in people's sex lives as well a lot of the time. You know, you think everything is on track and on point, and you're going to have a romantic evening, or you're going to, have that intimate time that you were planning on, and then suddenly the unexpected happens, and being able to make the connection, it's always tricky.
It's really true, and it's interesting how it seems that the cliche is true: when it rains, it storms, and I often feel that when you're doing a lot of great work, be it professionally or personally in your relationship, there are often extra challenges, and they're kind of like growing pains. And if you get through them, then you get those rainbows. And I try to remind myself of that when my plate gets really full and kind of wonky. I think that's a helpful thing for all of us to learn.
Well, I love it. I love what you're saying in terms of growing pains and soldiering on and soldiering through them so that you do get to the rainbows. And let's talk. Speaking of a rainbow, tell us about your radio show.
Sure. It's pretty new. It started in January, and I have to thank you because the experience first chatting with you on your show and two others I did with other hosts afterward really inspired me to embrace this kind of platform, which I think is really powerful. I appeared on Dr. Lisa's Health and Heal. She was on the show The Doctors, and now she's doing her own radio show instead. And afterward, her producers called and said, we think your show would do well as its own thing. Are you interested? And it's been really, really fun. I'm still very much a rookie, but it's been exciting. I also record those on Mondays, and the best place to listen or to subscribe would be through iTunes.
Super. And so do you get the opportunity to talk about some of your own ideas and own works that you've developed on the radio show, or do you get to explore some of the works of other people, or both?
I do, actually. It's a good mix of both. I have most of the control over the content as far as the topics and who I chat with, which is exciting. I started out just very personally and shared the story of my success, which was somehow lacking in different ways, and that kind of inspired me to later start Girl Boner as my blog series. And so I've tried to take listeners on a similar journey through using kind of my personal story and other women's stories of sexual growth and empowerment to, educate and inspire others. We try to keep it really upbeat and fun, and sometimes I have guests, sometimes I don't. This week we're featuring my blog fest, which is called The Beauty of a Woman, and it's an annual event that celebrates body image, and I actually added a Girl Boner category this year, which is really fun. So it's nice to kind of have the blog and the radio show to kind of, they're very synergistic. I try to involve the blog readers with the radio and vice versa, and it's one of the pleasures that we have of this digital age. We have so many ways to get our messages out, and you're definitely a huge inspiration for me in that regard. So I learn from you each time.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm always glad. It's always about passing it on. I remember years back having a teacher and, really having such a wonderful experience with her and saying to her, well, how do I ever thank you? And she said, you don't have to thank me, just pass it on. So it's all about passing on and inspiring other people along the way to keep the conversation going. And talking about body image and self-image. This is National Eating Disorders Awareness Week. How does that, first of all, why is it important to celebrate that? And secondly, how does that factor into self-image, self-worth, self-esteem? And what was your own experience with it?
Sure. Those are both great questions. The first, why is it important to celebrate National Eating Disorders Awareness Week? I wish we didn't need to. It's kind of one of those things that it's a campaign that brings a lot of awareness to eating disorders and kind of debunks myths. I know that when I was recovering from anorexia myself, the week really was empowering to me. I loved the fact that, at the time I was in college and I was walking around campus, and I remember seeing signs about embracing yourself, and you don't realize how much those messages can mean to somebody who is struggling. Also, it brings a lot of awareness to eating disorders, and I think there's so many myths about them. People tend to think that, they're not very common. They generally affect a particular kind of woman. It's like a Caucasian woman who is from kind of a, well-off family who felt like either that or she had a very traumatic childhood or the parents caused it. And those are, some cases, but they're myths for many people. And it's important for people to know that if they have disordered eating and it doesn't fit into a particular box of what they perceive as having an eating disorder, that they get it addressed. And so I think that bringing more awareness to eating disorders helps people get the treatment that they need and the growth that they need, and even realize that they need it in the first place.
That is so important, and it's so empowering that just by talking about it and bringing it into the public consciousness and public awareness, that it takes it out of a stigma, and it takes it out of something shameful, that that sort of range of what's wrong, what's really wrong, is something wrong with me, and really presents it as a problem that needs to be addressed and dealt with and understood and can be handled and managed.
Absolutely. I agree that the stigmas are pretty huge, and there's a lot of shame surrounding them, and, they affect personal relationships and sexuality profoundly. So, when one person has an eating disorder, their loved ones are all affected. It's a pretty, serious, difficult thing. So you not only end up helping the people who are struggling, but everyone that they're closely connected to.
And do you think that sexuality factors into an eating disorder before, during, and or after it? Have you seen that, and was that anything that you experienced yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that eating disorders and a person's sexual lifestyle and their personal sexuality are pretty inseparable. For me, it's really hard to pinpoint one particular thing that kind of causes a person's eating disorders. Generally, it's a complex variety of things, but I know for a fact that many women, including me, it's when we don't have a healthy relationship with our sexuality and our femininity and our bodies, we tend to be more likely to get involved with destructive behaviors because we don't value those parts of ourselves. And understanding and embracing our full bodies and, our sexuality is just as much a part of us as our digestion. It's everything about us is, combined. We are these beautiful sexual creatures from the very beginning. And I think messages that many girls receive early on, and boys definitely receive negative messages too about sexuality. If we're told that we should never talk about sex, we should not have sex unless it's purely to have a child. We should never masturbate. We should never touch those areas. That's really, it's just cutting off this huge part of ourselves. And so I think in many cases, it's a lack of sexual empowerment not only affects the person who then develops disordered eating or really poor body image, it also affects the way that parents raise their children. So if parents, for example, were raised without any sex education, they are unlikely to really emphasize that kind of empowerment for their children, which then leads to more problems.
What a great point, that it does become a matter of family values, family perspective, and what gets communicated both verbally and non-verbally, what gets passed down in the family and normalized or taken out of context so that people, if they're not talking about it or are struggling with feelings of discomfort or anxiety about their body or about their sexuality, when you feel anxious, you wind up feeling out of control, and as soon as you feel out of control, you try and figure out ways to take control and be in charge, and an eating disorder steps right in and fits right into that picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a way to try to deal with really intense feelings and situations that seem impossible to overcome, and a sense of, feeling like we want to be valuable. If we don't feel valuable, we're told by societal messages and different kinds of poor role models that we have to be thin and look a particular way to be valuable. So, it gets to be quite complex, but they're also really manageable, which is an important message as well. I think that people need to know that they can overcome eating disorders. They can also overcome and should overcome, milder or less specified eating disorder behaviors and attitudes. Some of the most dangerous are symptoms and conditions like compulsive dieting, that just kind of is so almost normal, sadly, that it doesn't ever get addressed. And, I've met women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who've never dealt with those issues, and that's a really sad thing.
What you're saying is so, I was just about to ask you, it's so important because to feel sexy, you want to feel good about yourself, and you want to feel like comfortable and like you like your body, literally you like your body. And it's unfortunate because aren't there just like millions of us women out there who really wrestle? It's like trying to wrestle with the, I call it the guiltigator, that alligator of guilt that you just feel so guilty about your body and what you ate and you're too heavy in your butt or your boobs or whatever it is that you feel uncomfortable with, and then try to manage through what you were describing, the obsessive dieting. And does that ever, have you ever seen it work for people where women do successfully diet and in fact feel sexier and healthier, or is it more a merry-go-round that really you want to start to embrace and accept your sexuality first, and then that flows into accepting and embracing your body, even if you're 5 pounds or 10 pounds heavier than perhaps your ideal weight?
That's a great question. What's interesting is, first of all, dieting never works. They'll say there's a small percent margin. In the long term, it doesn't work. The success comes from people who already have a good sense of their bodies and they don't have an emotional relationship with food, and maybe they just change their lifestyle to be a bit healthier. They learn a few good things from a particular diet and carry it on to a lifestyle. But for the most part, it doesn't start, the road to empowerment never starts with dieting. It might lead you to a turning point where you get miserable, and, usually dieting leads to weight gain, lots of added stress, slowed metabolism, very low libido. If you think about any woman, if we are desiring sex and we know that we have to likely be naked, perhaps be seen by somebody that we want to feel attractive in front of, it tanks the libido, and then we don't get all those beautiful benefits of embracing our sex life and having wonderful orgasms and just close physical intimacy with another person. So the best way to overcome is really to, first of all, recognize the problem. And, I definitely believe in nutrition. You do want to think about what you're eating, but ideally what you do is you become more intuitive about your eating. You start listening to your body. Emphasizing whole foods is important, avoiding all the fake dieting foods that have a lot of fillers and sugars and things like that. And sadly, a lot of the diet programs now, because dieting has a low success rate, are now called lifestyle programs. And any program that has really severe rules that makes you feel stressed out, that doesn't allow you to eat with flexibility, you should be listening for your body's cues. When am I hungry? When am I full? Am I enjoying this food? The way that we feel about our sexuality and the way that we feel about food and eating both have huge impact on the rest of our lives. So if we have positivity in those, all the little decisions we make about our sex lives and about our meals and about the way that we treat our bodies, exercising for pleasure and energy instead of calorie burn, for example, makes a huge difference. And it's taking baby steps. I think it's easy to feel overwhelmed, especially when you have lots of issues you're dealing with. But everyone can take one healthy step. And I think during Eating Disorder Awareness Week, it's a great time to say, you know what, so many people around the country, around the world perhaps, are making a positive change. What can I do? What can I do to make myself stronger and more comfortable with myself and a better person to be around and someone able to contribute to the world instead of feeling fixated on something that's so unhealthy?
It's so true, because I think if you shift the focus from being, all about a look and an image exclusively and specifically and turn it into broader, really widen the margins on the page, broaden it to be about health, inner and outer health, and taking care of yourself and feeling good about yourself from doing good and positive things, and that's much bigger than simply dieting. That
it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because when we accept ourselves, we are more attractive. So it's one of those kind of catch-22s almost. If you can start to, you used a really good word, you said fixate. If we're fixating on something on the outside, there's a very good chance that it has more to do with something on the inside. And if we simply step out of ourselves and try to live more authentically, pursue our passions, surround ourselves with people who are really uplifting, all of those things end up, when you surrender the dieting rules, you don't actually get fat. I mean, that's the fear. If I surrender, I will get fat, and i.e. invaluable, unlovable. And really the goal is to surrender, listen to your body, and then your body naturally goes to a healthy place weight-wise. And studies show that we are perceived as much more attractive physically to other people and ourselves when we accept ourselves.
It's so true, and I think what you're saying is really, really important. There are so many diets on the market and so many different ways to enable and encourage people to lose weight, and so many times people say it's not the losing weight that's problematic, it's the maintaining the weight once it comes off, because it's easier to follow a structure and a routine, yet what you were describing, August, getting in touch with, am I hungry, am I anxious, do I want to eat now because I'm nervous, and if I do, can I rein it in tomorrow, and finding that sort of emotional balance from within is really a very important, necessary part of being able to maintain a healthy approach to your body. On that note, we're going to take a healthy approach here at Healthy Living by going to a commercial, and we will be right back at the Let's Talk Sex show at HealthyLife.net. Stay with us.
March 6, 2004, Tom Pierce, his wife Joanne, and his daughter Lisa were on the water taxi that overturned in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Tom survived, however, his wife Joanne and daughter Lisa did not. Tom's book, The Last Rose, is about the first year of Tom's life after the accident and the many signs that helped him through it. Tom talks about the accident, but it's not a book about the accident. It's about the power of love. Love as we know it and understand it, and love that goes beyond our understanding. It won a Next Generation Indie Book Award for the Best Inspirational Book. And you can learn more about the book and find links to purchase the book on Tom's website, www.thelastrose.com. It's available on hardcover, Kindle, and Nook editions. The Last Rose may be the perfect book for anyone who has experienced the loss of a loved one. That's www.thelastrose.com. www.thelastrose.com. What About Me? How to Stop Selfishness from Ruining Your Relationship. It's the brand new book from Dr. Jane Greer. With 25 years of relationship counseling, Dr. Jane Greer has heard the same questions and seen the same patterns about selfishness in relationships. From wondering if you're living with the most selfish person alive to wondering if you are the one with the selfish tendencies. Dr. Jane Greer will help you see an option to the never-ending fight. Stop the guilty pressure of selfish sex and other actions, and pressure to do everything to reprove your love in the relationship. Vanessa Williams, the actress, says Dr. Jane Greer's book, What About Me, is a must-read. This book is both insightful and empowering. You, too, can end the selfish game and move from me to we. Find out more about Dr. Jane at drjanegreer.com. Also, find What About Me on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, SourceBooks.com, independent bookstores, and any place else books are sold. Karma. Good karma. Good Karma means the Good Karma Collection, a jewelry line embraced by some of Hollywood's biggest names and featured as a style-setting piece in People's Magazine. The Good Karma Collection is a timeless, stylish gift for teens, men, women, anyone. A unique collection of sterling silver jewelry, all designed to promote good wishes and good karma. A percentage of profits is donated to cancer-related charities across the USA. Check out the engraved Chinese characters representing positive energy, harmony, success, or their bestseller, a sterling silver pendant on a silver ball chain. Affordable, beautiful, and good karma. Found at Zero Minus Plus Boutique at Fred Siegel in Santa Monica, California, or call 310-395-5718. That's 310-395-5718.
All positive talk with a mature edge. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Sex Show here at HealthyLife.net. I am Dr. Jane Greer, and my guest is August McLaughlin. Her new radio show, Girl Boner Radio, is on iTunes, and she blogs at augustmclaughlin.com. She also tweets at August McLaughlin, and that's August without the second U. It's AUGST. So talking about image and, diet and enhancing your self-image, is there a way that women can boost their body image without it always having to entail going on a diet or losing 5 pounds?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, that's usually how the 5 pounds goes away, or you realize it really was blowing your mind, honestly. But typically, there are many ways. I think one is trying to recognize what negative influences you have currently in your life. It could be a particular friend who's very fixated on appearance. It could be magazines that you're reading that don't make you feel great about yourself, that promote dieting and unhealthy article content. It could be, your habitual, nature. You've been on diets for so long that you just kind of have lost touch. And if it's severe, it's really, really helpful to, or even if it's just difficult, but you're not sure how to get through it. There's so much wonderful professional help out there, as you know. It's, there are wonderful therapists, there are groups, and there are ways to get some kind of support. And if you're not getting support from a loved one in particular, I think it's important to try to talk to somebody, especially if there's a lot of shame around your behaviors. Exercise is still good. I think focusing on healthy foods, eating more healthy foods instead of thinking eating less, fattening, quote, foods, it's huge because when we focus on dieting, what we do is we focus on our deficiencies in our mind, what we think is our flaw. We think about these pounds that are driving us crazy. So all that's going to happen is we give that energy, we start feeling really deprived, we miss out on foods we enjoy. And deprivation is a big reason that dieting doesn't work. It's not sustainable. So instead, if you could think, how can I fill this plate up with healthy foods that taste good? What's a new healthy restaurant I can try? Talking to other women or, friends, loved ones about your body image in a positive way. Never, ever talking about your body in a negative light, especially around children, is huge. As you mentioned earlier, the role models that we set make a huge difference. And I've noticed that when you make a conscious decision, I actually made one to stop telling blonde jokes. It might be 2 years ago now. I'm blonde, and I was actually, when I was an actress, I was paid to tell blonde jokes on the Tonight Show. And it was just kind of this thing I would fall on to kind of be a little self-deprecating and that was my blondness that made that mistake. And I didn't realize until somebody pointed it out to me that, that's not exactly empowering or true to make these generalizations. And I felt very foolish. And as soon as I made the decision, actually my husband asked me if I had gotten good news because he said, you've been you look like you're glowing or something. What's going on? And I said, I just stopped telling lies. It's not like I was telling him every day, but just that shit to my mind. It was so empowering. And so the awareness and then saying, I'm going to commit to this is huge.
It really is, because changing your mindset like that and changing the words that you use, even just thinking you're saying or doing it playfully, in fact, becomes a headset. It's an emotional posture that you don't even realize you've adapted. It's like slumping in your chair and not realizing that you're not sitting up, and over and over and over repeatedly, suddenly you've got a backache and your muscles are not supporting your backbone.
That's a great analogy. Yeah,
thank you. But it really is so important to think in terms of, what we're talking about today is that while we are what we eat, it's not just about eating less or depriving ourselves. It's about giving ourselves more and finding a way to enhance our overall self-esteem and self-worth by not so much just exactly what we eat, by the choices, the healthy choices that we make to get there, and the way that we tender to and take care of our bodies, whether we're exercising or, refraining from eating ice cream and pizza all in the same sitting, but really being aware and making those conscious decisions so that we enhance our health as well as feed our bodies at the same time.
Absolutely. The positivity is huge, and you don't understand, or you can't really experience, imagine what it's going to feel like. Once you have a taste of that self-confidence and that empowerment, it's just such a more beautiful existence, and I wish it for everyone.
It really is something that I think means working towards and taking, if you want to take control, you can do it by simply making a choice to take better care of yourself. And it doesn't have to be a profound overhaul, but rather taking care of yourself on a simple basis, just by saying, I'm going to make one small change, even if it's walking one flight of stairs. If you have, 11 flights to get to your office or to the house, if there's 2 flights of stairs or 1 flight of stairs, to say, I'm going to walk the stairs twice today, or I'm going to get off one floor before my office and walk up. Whatever you can do that you set your mind to, which will give you physical and emotional strength at the same time, is going to enhance your feeling of self and the way that you feel in your body.
It's absolutely true. That's just that one step, as you mentioned. Even sleep. Sleeping more. If we don't sleep enough, we tend to have a poor sense of self. We don't think clearly. We're more emotional. Self-nurturing is really the key. And we say it all the time, take care of yourself first, but it's so easy to fall out of that habit.
It really is, and that's a whole other challenging topic, how to not only usher in restful sleep, but sustain it, maintain it, and continue to have it, because so many women, for so many different reasons, from hormonal to stress to just habits that need to be polished and shined, find sleep one of the, the sort of the last frontier to conquer. And rather than it being, a respite and a reboot, it's anything but.
Absolutely, and certainly that's something I empathize with, and I think, definitely exhaustion is the biggest libido